David,
Yes.
how's everything going, man? Welcome. You are on the road to rock, so congratulations to you. But the bigger pleasure is certainly mine, my friend. How's everything going?
Oh, thank you. I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure. You're making the rounds. It's a little bit different than, hopping on with Jimmy Kimmel or something to talk about a new TV show. But
Yeah.
this has got to be kind of cool as well. Getting to venture into a whole new realm, talking music, talking about the new album.
Yeah.
It's got to be kind of cool, right?
It is. It's definitely kind of more in depth. I mean, talking about music is it's a funny thing to try to talk about music, because it's like it's like music.
Yeah.
It's like I could tell you, oh man, you're gonna like this, but I don't know. You gotta listen to it.
Well, good luck here. Good news here, anyway. I do like it. I've
Oh,
been listening to Gestureland for the past couple weeks, kind of in
oh,
preparation to talk to you. It's really good. I tell you, so far, I think my favorite song so far, and I'm getting ready to go on kind of a cross country road trip. This is a perfect album for that. But Sea of Tranquility, I
ah,
think to me, it's got so much Bob Dylan in it, and I know that you have a lot of influences and a lot of musicians that have kind of influenced you. Did you kind of see some Bob Dylan in that? And that's so far my favorite track. Where does it rank for
yeah.
you?
Oh well, obviously, I have a special place for that because I put it last, right? That's like besides first, last is you know, it's an important spot.
As I've learned throughout my life, yes.
So, Sea of Tranquility was really a song that I spent a lot of time on in the production sense of it because I ever since I wrote it, I felt like it was an impactful kind of an emotional song, and I liked it a lot, but I wasn't getting it to the point in terms of recording it and arranging and the instrumentation of it where it was kind of having the impact that I wanted. So of all the songs, I think on the album probably tinkered most with the production of Sea of Tranquility until at first we started like just guitar and me, and I was like, nah, I want this, I want kind of a swell. I want this to be a very emotional. I know it's simple, it has that kind of very simple head-on approach, and you want to hear the lyrics. I also want kind of an emotional swell to happen. So there was a lot of playing around with it. And yes, I thank you for saying that. And I kind of agree that's a real strong song.
It is. And I think that the songwriting here is incredible. And you said something in a previous interview, maybe even a few months ago, that really kind of struck me as someone that loves music and loves delving in. But you said, writing lyrics is different than writing a song. I think that there's so much depth on this album. Kind of talk about your songwriting and where it's come. Now, this is your third album. Do you feel like it has positively evolved through the three albums? Because I think that, you're an author as well. You have a way with words. You're a creative person. But man, it seems like you're really hitting on all cylinders here, or writing wise, on this album.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, like take Sea of Tranquility again. I mean, just generally, I would say I got more comfortable, like, because I'd written poems when I was young, and for a while I thought of myself as a poet, whatever that means, and I never wrote lyrics, never really kind of considered what writing a lyric was. And then when I started to write songs, I really started to consider this kind of magical interplay between the words and the music, because a poem is the words do all the work, and a lyric, no, the lyrics do, let's say half, but maybe less than that. They have to get out of the way of the music, and they both have to kind of meld. And even like looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's looked at movies or television shows, and I've been in the position of like choosing a song for a scene, and it's like if there's too many lyrics in the song, it's going to fight the dialogue of the scene. So it's almost like that. It's like you want the lyrics to be full and you want them to be kind of emotive, but you don't want them to fight, the music. So that's a dance. Every song you come up with that dance. And Sea of Tranquility, just to give you an example of how the lyrics came about, was I'm old enough, when I was 9, my parents woke me up to see the moon landing. So I heard about Sea of Tranquility, which is where which is where they landed. And it was always this, it's just a beautiful image, but the fact that it's on the moon is eerie to me, that there's no sea, it's a crater. So I was always kind of taken with the poetic nature of Sea of Tranquility. And then I read an article just by chance about these two, I think they were meth heads that had been arrested robbing a convenience store because they said they needed money to get to the moon because the moon was made of drugs. I thought, well, that's kind of, the moon has been like a drug throughout human history. It's like we blame things on the moon. The tides are on the moon. We're kind of like gravity changes with the moon. So like this whole idea of struggle and drugs and pain, dealing with pain, and the goal being like the Sea of Tranquility, and that you could see me or the guy singing the song up there swimming one day, in this kind of tranquil place. So that's how that song came about, like thematically or lyrically.
It becomes a almost metaphorical Sea of Tranquility for when you think about that. And I think that's what you're describing is what I love about music. It puts you in a certain place in a certain time. It evokes certain imagery. That's what this album has done. And I don't sense necessarily a theme overarching, but obviously Laying on the Tracks was a really important one for you. Kind of dipping into the political realm, and you had that out, kind of before the election. It's been out for a while, but talk about your foray into writing this political song, because it's not, it's more subtle than people would think. It's very clear what you're saying in a way, but it's subtle. Talk about what it's been like for you having done that.
Well, I mean, the response was predictable in that people either got angry at the sentiment or they agreed with the sentiment. Unfortunately, I don't think it changed anybody's mind, and so why write a political song unless you really think you can change a mind? Why?
Interesting.
So I don't know. I guess I felt that song came together, the creation of that song was like 2 or 3 different kind of melodies and verses and choruses that we had that we kind of just started like melding together. And then, I think at one point I said, let's just lean into this moment, politically, let's just, because I've never done that. I've never like made a reference to current life, like in Sea of Tranquility, I don't reference the newspaper account where I read, the moon is made of drugs. So it's like, I feel like that, makes songs smaller rather than make them bigger. So, just kind of leaned into that aspect of it. And, but if you look closely, like if you read the lyrics, there's the obvious verse about Trump, but then there's an I talking about, like the I is singing about his failings. It's not like you bad guy, you're wrong, you suck. It's really like, I'm part of the problem. He says, I say he, but the guy singing the song, which is me in reality, but it's like a fictional me. He says, the part of me that turned away, I'm not, I have to kill, I have to break the chain because your suffering is my shame. It's my suffering. It's like, I've turned away. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying, President me as opposed to President that guy. I'm just saying we're in a moment, and I share the mistakes, but that kind of stuff is less shiny. So people don't like, they don't go beyond just like, oh, there's a stanza about Trump or whatever, but whatever, that's just the way things are.
There's an openness and an honesty there that I think you've touched on, that it seems to me like if people just shared your sentiment, if 75% of Americans, if 80% shared your sentiment, that we wouldn't be where we are today. I feel like that we're as divided as a country as we've ever had. And that's not what I want. It's not what anybody wants. And maybe this song, maybe it did impact some voters, or at least made people look at it in a different way. Is that too much to ask? I mean,
maybe.
darn it.
I think that, I don't know, man. It's like, it's hard to think about changing somebody's mind. People seem very dug in, and I'm not just talking about the people that disagree with me. I'm talking about people that agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that has, well, that would be a good thing to change. I don't know that a song can do that. I think there have been songs that have been very important and that have kind of coalesced in movements, but you can't like aim for that. Dylan didn't write "Blowing in the Wind," to be that,
Sure.
but it became that, So yeah, I mean, I wonder if "Blowing in the Wind" changed anybody's mind. We like to think because, retrospect, it seems to have, but also at that point, you had folk music that had a tradition of being political from Woody Guthrie on, of actually addressing very specific political things. So,
Well, Gestureland, I want to make sure that we get the release date out there. It's coming up August 20th. I know what a music fan you are and a music lover. We've seen the way we consume music change so much. Obviously, the single is on, Apple Music and things like that and on streaming services. But is there a physical copy of this album? I mean, vinyl's such a big deal right now. You seem like a guy that has got a lot of vinyl. How's it going to be? How's it going to come out?
Yeah, there's going to be vinyl. There'll be a different color vinyl too, which is always kind of cool. Whenever I would buy bootlegs, because I would buy back in the day this tiny little record store on 8th Street and 2nd Avenue called Free Being. That tells you what you need to know about that. And I would buy all these bootlegs. I because they were cheaper, and they were cheaper because they sounded terrible, but I didn't know that, So I was like, oh my God, I got all these songs on this live album, for half the price. And no, it didn't work out. But they would sometimes come out on like a yellow vinyl or a white vinyl and shit like that. I remember Beggar's Banquet was on white vinyl that I had. But yeah, so there's going to be vinyl. I don't know if there's actually going to be like a 45, because I used to buy those too, like little singles on vinyl.
Yeah, I absolutely can't wait for that. And David, I'll tell you, I may be making a connection here that doesn't exist. That's just kind of what I do sometimes. But you released your first album back in 2015, Hell or High Water, right on the heels of doing Californication, a show where you very much played, maybe not literally, but Hank Moody was very much a rock star. The show was very much based around music. You had a lot of musician guests on the show. Was this any coincidence that and did you have a chance to talk to any musicians that came on the show? Sebastian Bach, Marilyn Manson, kind of leading into that.
Yeah. I think if you ever meet Sebastian Bach, you have no choice but to talk to him. And I enjoyed my time on set with him. He's just a force of nature, that dude, and what a voice too. But the music for Californication, Tom Kapanos is the creator of the show. Huge music fan and lover, and wide-ranging taste. Like, is way more into heavy metal than I've ever been, but also loves Elton John, and we kind of bonded over a love of Elton John and trying to get Elton John songs into. Trying to forward Elton John songs and put them in the show. I remember "High Flying Bird" was a beautiful song of Elton's that I wanted to use. And while I was prepping to play the part in Californication, I just by chance got into the music of Warren Zevon, which I hadn't been into before that. And then Warren Zevon stuff became like, this is totally the sensibility of the show. I mean, it's like Warren Zevon wrote this show, and Tom, oddly, didn't even know that much about Warren Zevon. So we kind of discovered that together. But, Marilyn Manson was on the show. Tommy Lee was on the show. Tim Minchin, who's a terrific singer-songwriter, was on the show. Zakk Wylde. I did a scene with Zakk Wylde. He gave me that bullseye guitar.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I would fan out, at times. And that was fun for me.
Have you ever played a character that's more self-indulgent and than Hank Moody. And I imagine that surely daily in your life that you've got somebody running up yelling at Hank Moody quotes at you. You're our author in real life. There's some parallels here. Was that the most self-indulgent you've ever been as a actor and in a role?
I think on the surface, yeah. I think on the surface, that to me, that's like the magic trick of the show, is how do you play this guy who's making the wrong decisions superficially for sure, but has his heart in the right place and is in some way, living by a code of family and of love that goes against the current mode of what that's supposed to look like, of family values, and how do you do that in a way that you see the guy's heart, underneath all the mistakes he's making. So to me, that was the magic trick of the show.
It was indeed magical time, and just a show that I don't know, I've kind of ruined my relationship life over it, though. Every girl that I've ever dated or known, I make them watch Californication, then they're never heard from again. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You might want to rethink that.
We'll see going forward.
I appreciate the residuals, but you might want to.
We've seen you in the back in October in the legacy of the craft legacy, excuse me, which I was such a huge fan of the original. And when Blumhouse announced that they're going to do this craft sort of reimagining, I said, I don't know, like that was just such a classic 90s film and really stood on its own. And then someone said, well, David Duchovny's in it. I said, well, when does it come out? Let's do this. It seems like if there's a role that seems like, oh, this maybe doesn't make sense, or this is kind of random, that David Duchovny, you find yourself in the role. And this was another example of that. I thought it was tremendous. And I thought the film exceeded my expectations exponentially, well written and well directed. How did this kind of come about for you? And did you enjoy this role of being, spoiler alert, a warlock in The Craft?
Well, it's too late for spoilers. The pandemic kind of spoiled that the movie coming out, it didn't come out in theaters.
Right.
It was made to be a movie that you saw in theaters, but Zoe Lister-Jones, who wrote the script and directed it, they sent me the script, and when I looked at it, I was like you, I was like, well, it's been done, and then I read like 10 pages of it, and I was like, oh, Zoe's up to something here. This is interesting. And then I saw my character. I was like, oh no, I don't really want to do that. And then there was the turn. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to do that. So it just came about that way. And, I love Jason Blum. I think Blumhouse makes really, fun and great films. And
yes,
so I was in.
Well, David, before we cut you loose here, and you've been so generous with your time, and we can't thank you enough for this, got to hit you with our final 4 drum roll, which is 4 quick questions. They're fun, and you just give us whatever comes to mind.
Got it.
Okay, so it might be hard to remember the last concert you attended as a fan, thanks to the pandemic, but what was the first concert you ever attended that you can recall?
I saw at Roosevelt Stadium, Muddy Waters, Marshall Tucker Band, Charlie Daniels Band, and the Allman Brothers.
That's badass. That's badass. That narrowly defeats mine of Metallica and Guns N' Roses in '92. Next one, if you could be on stage with any band, living or dead, and perform as the front man, one set, what band would it be?
Oh God, I got to be the front man.
You do.
Well, I mean, it's horrible to say, but I would love to play with the Who behind me, but I'm never ever want to replace Roger Daltrey. So that's just
he can be there too.
Nah, we'll just leave that hypothetical.
We will.
Like to do Baba O'Reilly. Fuck, that'd be.
Oh. Hank Moody voted for who for president in 2020?
Oh, he voted for Biden. Yeah, but okay. He's one of those false votes that Trump was looking for.
No, you're on the right track. I was gonna say the correct answer is he had his ID, his driver's license taken away, and was unable to send the mail-in ballot, and it was not validated, and he didn't vote.
Exactly.
So, cop out.
Hank Moody, I don't think votes. Hank Moody never votes.
Last one. Live setting is such an important, people that have seen you live, you've done some European tours and things like that, know that it's such an event you really like to bring out and make it the audience a part of it. Touring plans for 2021/2022. When can we expect
Nothing
that?
specific, because this pandemic is slippery, right? We seem to have entered into a new and worse phase than we were in just a month ago. So, music in a venue that's not outside is an iffy proposition, where people are packed together and breathing on one another, and some guy is standing on stage spitting aerosols at you. So we'll see when it's safe. If we could, we'd be out there right now, but I can't be out there right now.
Well, David, thank you so much. The album Gestureland is tremendous. I think it's your best work yet, and I'm ready to kind of blast it on a cross-country road trip coming next week, and all the credit to you, man. Thank you so much. Safe travels. Stay safe and stay healthy, my friend.
Thank you. My pleasure.